Hello, my name is Greta Lawani, and I'm happy to welcome you to our today's presentation. We want to prepare for the flu season 2018, and the first thing I would like to share with you is that we based this analysis on the dataset coming from the US Census Bureau for the population information and from the Center for Disease Control or the CDC for the number of deaths. As you can see on this graph, we have the number of total deaths during that period, and we also have a distribution by state. And what I wanted to do first is to answer the following key questions. The first one being which population group is at a higher risk? Obviously, we need to know how often the flu season cases are rising within a year, and if it is the same length every year, where are the most vulnerable populations concentrated? Sorry for my French accent. And which states have the highest mortality rates? It will simply help us determine where are additional staffing and medical assistance required by state. So the first question you should have is, what is influenza? We call it commonly the flu, and we know that it's contagious. It's a respiratory illness which is caused by influenza viruses. Peak seasons are generally during the winter when the temperature decreases. And like myself, I'm sure that most of us here in attendance have experienced it at least once in our lifetime. Unfortunately, the flu can be mortal, and it is mainly due to medical conditions, underlying health conditions that patient had, and we have pinpointed that the people that are more likely to die from influenza are people over 65 years old compared to the people under 65 years old. Based on age groups, we can definitely see a pattern, as you can see here. And there is a strong relationship, a strong and positive relationship, or what we call a statistical correlation between the total number of deaths compared to the total number of deaths of people over 65 years old. And clearly below you can see that there is a direct impact in death when people are over 65 years old. So because we have established that, we now clearly see which states are at risk when we see where the top states have the highest 65 plus population. California is the first state with almost 41 million people. And when we select with the legend California, we can clearly see how many people reside there, how many people died of this illness, and it is also shown on the map. So now that we know exactly which states have the highest mortality rates, California, New York, Texas being the highest one, followed by Pennsylvania, Florida, etc., as you can see. We know also where are the most vulnerable populations concentrated. And Those are the three I just mentioned, and Florida, Pennsylvania, etc. So we can actually allocate properly our medical staff resources to ensure that the influenza season 2018 is a success. So the first thing we think of is historical data, but on a monthly base. And when we see this here, we can clearly see which trend is happening. So the main peak season happens between January and March. There is a decrease, but it's with a little peak again in March. Then it declines, and we are talking about the South region in the US. And from September, it's increasing again until the end of the year, and it continues obviously for Q1 of the following year. So now that we have this information, like clear water, we know that the season in 2018 will be similar because the peaks and declines are also observed in 2016 and 2017. So here you can see the actual forecast. And it brings us to the following conclusions, where we listed the high need, medium need, and low need states for this new season. We already know that people over 65 years old are at risk, that the main peak season are at the beginning of the year and starting in September. So we have to have medical staff ready ahead of those periods in the states that we listed: California, New York, Texas, Pennsylvania, Florida, etc. However, even though, let's say, the medical staff that will be allocated to these regions will be the highest one, we don't have to forget about the medium need states such as Georgia, Massachusetts, Missouri, etc. To also ensure in the future, because this uh, seasonality is happening monthly, every year, all the time, we will need to enhance information concerning vaccination rates for each state and counties, possibly. We will also need to make a deep dive into variation in mortality rates among subgroups within the older population, and check also if we have any data concerning demographic disparities in other populations. All this will allow us to improve the data validity, that's one thing, and to readjust the allocation accordingly. And talking about data, what is really important to talk about is the fact that the data has its limitation. When it comes to the Census Bureau information, we have to note that there were sometimes incomplete records across counties and states, and it will impact the data quality, and it can introduce biases in population counts and death ratios. So that's the first thing. And when it comes to the death information, the CDC suppressed any death number under 10, and that represented almost 82% of the data. So it raises concerns about potential biases, and I did not use imputation data for that matter. So in any case, with or without imputation, it significantly influences the accuracy of the results. And so we need to create a more comprehensive data set to better identify vulnerable population in the future. And as we move forward, we have to collaborate to implement these recommendations and further refine our approach. So I really think that together we can make a significant impact on patient outcomes, and it will ensure that our healthcare system is well equipped to handle the challenges that are posed on a yearly basis by the influenza season. Thank you for your time. Take care and stay healthy during the flu season. And if you have any questions, let me know.